Hey fellow skeptics, Lester the Skeptic Tank here. Well, looks like I hit the wrong button again, even on my phone. I was unboxing my order from, or unbagging my order from NFL.com. Oh well, this is what came of that. As I was going to say, this looks a little big, at least from the outside looking in. I haven't put it on yet. I hope if I were to run it in a cycle, maybe two, that it might shrink. I don't know. I'll probably shower up and then shave this off, see if how it fits. Tend to not wear a lot of well, this doesn't look exactly white. I don't know if it's a matter of lighting or whatever, but interesting. Yeah, it's what I don't know what I would call it. It's like a jersey shirt slash shirt. I think there were different styles. I'll see how this fits, but at least for me, it looks a little bit on the big. Again, from the outside looking in, and interesting thing about when you're a fan of a team and some of the players that are on it, especially if they're quote homegrown. Kittle was drafted in the 5th round. I think he is on his second contract or will be soon enough. So there's that. Especially the thing with free agency and all that. He may be on the team for the next number of years, or not even a year. It's interesting how the industry works. You kind of figure you have to figure out what player is a marketable commodity on a team. What jersey would be a hot seller? I know there's the thing with Jimmy G. He was popular when he was with the Niners, at least amongst a good bit of the fans. Not with the team anymore. I don't know if people who have his jersey are feeling a little bit of regret, but you know, at least it's a piece of history if he ends up moving on elsewhere after maybe another contract negotiation or whatever, or you know, it looks like based on what I know about how the Niners move is they'll give a player, if they see the potential, at least their track record shows, they'll give a guy his full year, or they'll not pick up his what they call a 5th-year option in pro football. Basically, rookies are, depending on what round they're drafted in. Typically, with the first rounders, they got a de facto 4-year contract, and if the team wants to, they'll pick up a 5th-year option. It works both ways in that they delay the negotiations. It allows them to, at least on the back end, the front office end, they have that player under contract for another year without having to worry about negotiations, before the expiration of the first contract. So, at least to their credit, they'll, depending on who they see as a fit or they see still potential, they try to see the contract through. Otherwise, depending on how late they are drafted, and if they show no mettle, they're not with the team. Not even if they're drafted. And it's like with anything, even in employment, every employer is taking a gamble on a prospective hire. And they have to weigh a lot of considerations, which I'll not get into unless you guys want a video about that. But we'll see. Like I said, I'll follow up I'll probably wear it today and see how that goes. At least from the looks of it, I don't know. I think before I realized I didn't hit record, and I might have just taken a snapshot. Depending on how the shirt or shirts are manufactured, I can fit into an extra small. I don't know what that says about me. I mean, my parish priest once said one night, "Gotta put some meat on those bones." Oh well, I'll try. I guess I'll pump more iron or eat more protein. So, we'll see. I normally don't wear, like I said, any bright colored shirts. I've gotten some shirts through my Geek Fuel subscription, and that was cool. All right, I'm gonna pause this real quick, and then I'll do my biz to clean up this. I don't know how I feel, especially as we move into November. I'll probably go ahead and at least clean this off and then go from there. All right, let me see if this will work. All right, guys, here it is. So, to my surprise, the sleeves weren't too long. I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, when it comes to long sleeve shirts, there's some working with my body type or just working in terms of color scheme. I guess this looks alright with the hat I'm wearing, and let's see if it improves some. I'm not sure how I feel about it with a darker pair of jeans. I might wear the shirt with a khaki color or whatever. So yeah, this one doesn't seem to distract. This color combo with the hat. This doesn't either, but yeah, looks all right. It's a little bit on the long side, but I can't complain about that. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn around a little bit. I don't know if you can see the. Let me see if I can move things around so you can see the back. Not terrible. Might have to pull it down a little bit more, but not terribly too long. I in certain use cases I'll likely have to tuck it in because depending on the kind of shirt I wear over it, that will usually determine whether I tuck the shirts underneath, which is my standard practice anyway. Yeah. So again, with this color scheme, I guess it would fit the overall Niner color scheme. So, not too bad. A little long, but I'm gonna see if I can combine this with a whatever button up I decide to pair it, or whatever other T-shirt I might put on top of this. Just that if I wear this to church and if I'm gonna sing in the choir, not sing, but be in the choir area, but usually they don't want anything with logos or anything distracting in terms of the art. We want people's eyes to be focused on the orientation of worship. So I'll say no more about that, but hopefully this gives you an idea. Just for transparency, I do stand 5'2", 5'1", maybe. I don't know if I've shrunk over the years, but that's my go-to. That's my go-to height. I hover between 130 and 135. So, yeah. A little bit on the pricey side, but I remember having a couple of jerseys, and I remember when the NFL Experience came to San Diego at the time in 98, when the Super Bowl between the Packers and the Broncos, that was an experience. And I had a jersey before that. I actually had a Jerry Rice jersey, which I think I handed it down to my cousins in the Philippines. And then same thing with my Merton Hanks, which was one of those reversible jerseys, which was cool. But I think in retrospect, it was just maybe a size or two too large for me. So I don't know if I'm a jersey fan. I remember even wearing basketball jerseys. And then I guess you would say I was in a specific or particular phase of my life during high school where oversized clothing was a thing. That kind of phase, you kind of get the idea. So just a quick unbag and test, see if it's a shirt that I can wear, and then if I'm just going to see what I can combine this in terms of tops, if I wear this underneath for any reason. I'll likely relegate this to like my game day watching days if I so choose. Unfortunately, the Niners did play Thursday, so it is an open weekend, if you will. I can catch up on the slate of games available, which is cool. It's just a matter of what I want to catch up on. If I want to do some prep work with the other teams, make a statement or two about trends or whatever. So appreciate the feedback thus far with my last few videos. I didn't know that my run through with I'm trying to remember what game it was, the Everybody Striking video. Appreciate the buzz on that, as well as the whatever buzz they can attract. I know with certain restricted videos it doesn't have quite the reach, but I felt I would take the under on that just out of a risk of what you would call it. I don't know if the YouTube overlords will listen to complaints or reports if I didn't warn folks about a video about a game I played, Beat Cops or Beat Cop, which it's one of those things where the controls were a little wonky. Audio is kind of fun. It's like I appreciate advancement in graphics engines, graphics hardware, computing hardware. I don't know where I stand as far as like getting another console. It is another investment, at least with graphics cards, particularly in my situation where I tend to do a lot of retrograding. So technically, I guess my Quadro K6000 is from another decade prior to the 2020s. So, oh well. And that's what a lot of my videos are anyway. Just how far can I push the bounds of my setup? Because I understand folks from, I think it's Nick from EBN or Echo Base Network, he's trying to find a good machine and he's willing to pay what is necessary to ensure that he's going to have a machine lasting him a long while. And that can tend to change because the needs will likely evolve over time if whether the requirements to do what you need to do are heightened to a degree. So it's often, I think what certain people take for granted, especially those who come from a console world, maybe getting into the PC world for the first time, or they haven't gotten back into the PC world in a long time. System requirements count for something, and of course they always talk about the bare minimums. That's what they post. But then, depending on how good the publisher is, they'll post their recommended requirements or what they recommend if you want to have a good experience playing the game on the computer. And yes, depending on the game, it does take some prep work because as he's trying to future-proof himself for maybe 5 years. So it's just a matter of whether or not you want to hold to what you look for in a game. If your game is still enjoyable and it has replay value, and it doesn't require the need or doesn't require having to, doesn't require an upgrade. If you're pushed to that point, then yeah, I can see why. But there is a lot of prep work involved in research to figure out, okay, what are the games I'm going to play? And how do I get a general consensus over what requirements are necessary so I can enjoy the game itself? I don't intend to play Starfield. I know that's been getting a lot of buzz, but that's because for me, there is a lot that goes into perceiving a game as time suck worthy. As for all the guff Madden gets, and I share that, it's just something about, like I mentioned with franchise mode, there's that replay value, that idea of building a team. And then once you got the established stars, we'll see what our AI-generated rookies towards the end of the franchise mode. There is an ending to franchise mode. They'll say, "Oh, that's it. You can't go into another year." Again, it goes back to whether the game is playable. Can I have an enjoyable experience? And yes, you do take graphical factors into account, but if the graphical factors, if they don't meet up to what you think the hardware should have, or what you may have in terms of hardware, that's when you think about upgrade. But otherwise, like, there's a game on GOG I was flirting with getting. It's a pixelated based football game. And I know I've been on certain streams talking about Joe Montana football, but there's a lot more to a sports game than merely how the graphics look. There's a thing known as game physics, graphics engine. As long as the game moves like you want it to, so you can enjoy the game and it's realistic to a point, because I think there was a sharp divergence between what happened with NBA Live and that franchise, and then in the 2K Sports or the NBA 2K series. I remember very early on when the NFL 2K game came out on the Dreamcast, and I played it with my friend and buddy, and yeah, it was a learning curve. It was an adjustment, and then as you realize that was the last great NFL or football based video game rivalry. Now that EA has the monopoly on certain licenses, they're the only game in town, which is kind of sad. It doesn't, without that competition, we wouldn't have better football games at a faster pace, because even I'm guilty of it. I'll get the next year just because it's like a glorified roster update. Because as much as I love the community, I know there are points in the community where they will just move on to the next version of Madden. They will likely not. Because I'm pretty sure that there comes a bunch of work to be done to make sure the rosters are truly up to date and with the right attributes. And so I send my kudos to those who may still provide roster-based or community-based roster updates. Because if I were honest, that's what I'm paying whatever. And given that EA has decided not to provide a physical copy of the game anymore, it's almost like, well, I might as well get the EA Pass or whatever it's called. Yeah, you can try different games, but at the same time, it's like, well, I'm at the mercy of EA's repository. You never know, they might take a game away. So, in principle, you're only just paying for the privilege to play that game, knowing that you aren't likely to own it. So, I did find an outlet where that was an opportunity, but I have yet to test its efficacy. That way, if I do make use of that at some point, I can make it work for me. And at some point, I will have to reach a conclusion that roster updates aren't going to matter to me, that I can just enjoy the football game. And I'll just play franchise mode. And based on the reviews, the reason why I did pull the trigger on it is supposedly it's going to go back to what I remember back in Madden. I think it was 95 or 96. It was likely 96. Because you had all the games or the drills that you would earn points on or whatever. I'm forgetting which edition it was. I think this was still when Madden had competition. I could be wrong. But, alright, well, enough of that tangent. I want to thank you again for those who have contributed to the content in terms of conversation, engagement, whether that's throwing a like, whether that's saying, hey, blah, 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 blah. This is what I think about this. And again, tip my hat to Low Spec Linux Laptop. He's been helping steer the conversation and what I want to provide you guys. You know, I have nothing wrong. It's just, I can easily get onto a time suck of a game if the game's got the right stuff. I remember playing Civ 6 or 5. I easily lose the time if I'm into a game. And I could easily gone more into beat cop, like, just so I can learn the mechanics of the game on the fly. That's one of the things I appreciate about games like that. Once you find something that will hook you, watch out. You'll be spending a lot of time in front of that screen. All right, fellas, skeptics, peace out until the next video. Again, much appreciated for all the input, and beware, be on the lookout for a community tab post. It's just more of my thoughts on, particularly when it comes to narratives, and I know I'm speaking specifically with respect to the Niners, but I think there is a lot going on in terms of the narrative being spun, and a lot of writers trying to get the clickbaity, whether we're talking virtual or on paper, just so they can make some noise. And yes, I understand they've got a roof to keep, they've got mouths to feed, whether that's their own or their families. But if you stand back and just wait for things to play out, then you might have more to give in terms of an offering. Because if you do a hyperbolic take on something, then you might risk a viewership, because some people, or a lot of people, can smell BS from a mile away. And I've noticed that when I was working with teenagers, or I'm still technically working with teenagers via my parish church school, but I was at another parish a decade ago and change that, yeah, these kids, they don't like to be BS to. So even with them, starting with them, and then also with fans who kind of know better, who look at every perspective and angle before they make a take. It's very easy to be prisoners of the moment, like I mentioned in another video. All right, take it easy, all. Peace.